It's Tim Albright with AVNation with an AVNation special, Talking AI with Joe Pham from QSC. Welcome, sir.
Hey Tim, how are you?
I am well. I am well. Good to see you in person in real life.
It's been a while.
It has.
It's been a while. We've done calls, but it's
Absolutely.
been a while to see you in person. It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
I like the look, Tim. I do like the look.
I tell people that I am old enough, I am at that age that as long as I have friends that can't do it, I think I'm going to.
You know, if I could do it, I would too.
All right.
That's what I told you.
You did a talk, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is the third or fourth in a series.
Yes, the third.
The third.
Series.
You did a talk during InfoComm this year about the impact of AI generally, right?
Right.
You started with that, but then of course, because the CEO of QSC, you got into the AV part. Right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to start with AI. What is the overarching big picture from your perspective of AI?
I think it is the greatest, most profound, technological, and most impactful innovation of our lifetime, of humankind. I mean, so let's just start with sort of like where I'm coming from there.
Well, you say lifetime. You and I are roughly the same age.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of changes, right?
I've seen a lot of change.
Would you say it's the most impactful thing of our lifetime or humankind in recorded history?
Both.
Okay.
Both. In our lifetime, for sure, right? I'm probably going to sort of cite the internet, mobile,
100%.
AI.
Yeah.
Right? And all in our lifetime, which I've termed the exponential age, all of these technologies are compounding and they build upon each other.
Yep.
Right? So AI is not enabled without some of the things that I just mentioned. But with the interesting things, when I got into this, my mind was so blown. I went back and back and back and back, and that's part of the talk I gave at InfoComm, is I went back like 1,000,000 years of technology innovation. And so you got to get, so now you're talking about fire, the printing press, electricity, right? So it's on that level, and it's just built to this point where if you think about how profound it is, like just take some of these innovations I decided. So electricity finally gave us power as utility on tap, right? So everyone can sort of just on tap have access to power sources, which sort of ignited the Industrial Revolution, our factories, homes, all that stuff. And then you get to cloud computing. After the PCs and all the computing paradigms, you get to cloud computing, and now we have computing as a utility on tap, right, from the cloud and the data centers. So, when you think about it in that context, how do you frame AI in that context? We're at the point where we have human intelligence on tap, and that's like, if you really just think about that statement, it's mind blowing.
Let me ask you a question here, because I appreciate the human intelligence part, and there is something that as you and I were growing up, there was always this marker, and it's called the Turing test, right?
Yes.
Named after Alan Turing.
Yes.
And the idea behind that was, if computers ever got to the point where if a human was talking to them, they couldn't differentiate the answers from an actual real human.
Right.
Do you think we're there?
We're past that point.
Okay, all right.
We're past that point. I want to get back to Alan Turing, because I think that's a really important part of AI history.
Yeah.
Right. I think we're my view, right? I mean, obviously, this is obviously just my view. I believe we're past that point. I believe sort of like the next benchmark is what a lot of people call like artificial general intelligence, where beyond the Turing test, the one that I like, I forgot who I think it was Steve Wozniak.
Probably,
Apple. He said, as soon as a robot can go into a kitchen that it's never seen before and make a cup of coffee, we've reached that
Brother,
level.
you were talking my language.
Right?
Like,
but let me get back to Turing. You mentioned, so the thing about AI, a lot of people have only heard of AI since last year. That's about a year ago when ChatGPT got released, right? But AI is like an 80 and 90 year sort of field, 80-year-ish. And so the first paper on neural networks was written in like 1943, I believe. Okay, and so at that point in the 40s, a really important part of AI history and computing history was there were sort of two schools of thought on computing. So Alan Turing had the school of thought that computing should mimic human intelligence.
Okay.
Okay, because the neural networks were published, and he was like a big, very smart person in that area. And then the other sort of key thought leader at the time was John von Neumann, who is, sort of invented, credited with inventing the modern computer. And so von Neumann's idea was that computers should be deterministic, right? Like punching cards,
Yeah.
right? In our lifetime, you write code, it does what you write. It's
Yes.
Calculators are deterministic. Computer code is deterministic. Turing was much more fascinated by modeling that computers should model human intelligence, right? So the notion of AI goes back way to the 40s, so you're about 80 years old, and because of the technologies that were available at that time, obviously, history has written the course, and we went down the computing route. We went down the John von Neumann route, but because of everything that's advanced, including proliferation of data, the massive amount of computing that is available today, and the algorithms, the transformer algorithm that was published in 2017 by Google researchers, all that's come together to make literally the Turing vision of computer a reality today. So AI, has gone through lots of ups and downs. When I did a graduate degree at UCLA, I was, spent all of the 90s at UCLA, and in the in the 90s, it was in its lull. So while I was in school, I didn't hear a lot about AI. Researchers were really on hot, into a lot of different areas.
Yeah.
But sort of looking at it now, because of the data and the computing and the computer science neural network architecture that's come together, it is a reality today.
Well, you say you went to UCLA during the 90s, but you've gone back to school, sort of, not like taking a full load of classes, but you spent time at Stanford and in their AI symposiums. Talk about that for a second.
Yeah, so just this past year, I've spent quite a bit of time at Stanford, both spending time with the professors at Stanford and professors in computer science, also professors in the business school. I've spent time with lots of startups in Palo Alto, and it's been a fascinating experience. And this is where, I can give you all the reasons why it's real, right? And so, there are academics who have been studying AI for 30 years, who've dedicated their lives for 30 years. And when the Transformer came out in 2017, and actually GPT came out, not the 3.5 that you and I sort of, but 3.0 came out a little bit earlier last year. When that made its way around, most of the academics and most of the startups, it was the aha moment for them, where they were like, this is amazing. Because what happened before the Transformer was AI was disparate. There was AI in computer vision, there was AI in audio, there was AI in genetics, there was AI in healthcare. There's lots of different parts of AI. AI in linguistics, right? And they all kind of went down their own path in terms of what's the right neural network architecture, right? You go back to sort of different neural network architectures before the Transformer. But the amazing thing about the Transformer, just on this one point that we're talking about, is it's completely, it's it makes sense of all modes, okay? And so it's bringing together all of these fields of AI that were disparate fields. So we're talking about text. So that's text in any language. Text also includes code in any language. We're talking about audio, so that includes speech in any language, music in any style, images, 2Ds, 3Ds, animations, videos, and then we're not even talking about like genomics yet, right? To proteins and all that. And so anything at this point, because there's so much data and there's just a massive amount of computing available, which are the two things, you need three things: data, computing, and the algorithm. So any data that has any resemblance of structure in the data, and it's actually getting pretty good at even unstructured data, the transformer algorithm with the data and computing can make sense of it. And it's just an amazing algorithm that predicts the next, what we call the token.
Okay.
So you and I think of a token as the next word, but this could be the next note in music. right? This could be the next image, the next pixel on an image. And so when you put your head around any mode to any mode, there's no limit, right? So if I do a company meeting in the future, we have offices in Germany, Hong Kong, India. We have, I could be broadcasting from Costa Mesa, right? And that's English. The image gets compressed. It goes to across the world, and across the world, it could come out in 3D in Chinese.
Wow.
Right? Just think about the human connection that this technology allows when we're all able to connect each other in our native language and our native. So it's truly profound, and I can keep going. But
here's the thing. So based on that, right? Based on the stuff that you've learned, right? At Stanford and the other symposiums you've gone to, how do you think this is going to shape business, certainly, but just humanity broadly?
Yeah. Let's start with humanity.
Okay.
And then we'll get down to the business, and we can go AV in any direction you want. If you think about, technology in general, and that was part of the everything has changed sort of piece. Technology for the million years, the million years was comical, right? It starts with fire, right? Technology has always had this cycle where new knowledge and inventions get created, standards of living gets increased, life expectancy, grows.
And there's a bell curve of adoption, and absolutely.
Right. And it just moves and moves and moves. Okay. And so for humanity, I think we're, one of the main points I was trying to impress in that talk is everything is on an exponential curve now.
Okay.
So I've talked about data being exponential, connectivity being exponential, computing being exponential. We didn't even get to the transformer architecture. There's even believe it or not, there's even a new thing beyond the transformer.
Okay.
That lots of smart people, including folks at Stanford, are working on. So for humanity, you're seeing this cycle of progress continue. So it wasn't, you should fact check me on this, but it was probably just 100 years ago where life expectancy was probably around 40-ish. Okay, now we're over 70.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that's because of all the technological advances in healthcare and everything else from the Industrial Revolution on. So for humanity, just 100 years ago, what was it? Over 50 million people died from the Spanish flu. Mm-hmm. And that was probably a 1.8 billion population. So if you extrapolate that to today's population, that's 250 million people, right? So technology has always, in the history of technology, at least the history that we're talking about, has improved lifetime, improved quality of life, improved life expectancy. I think AI is the next frontier to keep that moving. And so, when I think about where, if I'm thinking about humanity, if we could, here are 4 things, right, that are important.
Okay.
If we can have a sound money system, abundant and cheap and clean energy, amazing healthcare for all, amazing education for all, that's going to really help humanity.
Yeah.
So, I think AI is going to have an impact in a lot of these areas, but specifically, I'm most optimistic for healthcare and education, because I think there's already a line of sight between now and what it can do for healthcare and education, right? And in the future, you should be able to just walk into a pod, and it's like, right now we go to a doctor when something's wrong, and the doctor is usually a specialist or a generalist who doesn't know, right? And it's just imagine when the doctor is a superhero and a superhuman, and he's got all of the research available, and he can fine tune a large language model for his area of expertise. Yeah. Tim, do you know there's like thousands and thousands and thousands of medical research papers published every day?
Jeez.
Your doctor, how many has he read today?
Yeah, exactly.
0.
Yeah.
Right? But an AI tailored for healthcare can absorb all that information and give your doctor the relevant information. So whether it's going to a doctor who is now much more capable, or whether just going to, there's probably going to be a pod, you just sit on this and it sort of does all of your diagnostics for preventive care. All of that, in my opinion, is going to give us a higher quality of life and continue the growth, continue the increase in life expectancy. And then education, I'm just talking about education and we can wrap up on this one. we're very privileged in the United States, right? We have a functioning public schools. You can go to private school, great. You can go to university. We have some of the greatest universities in the world. But there's a large part of the planet that does not have access to education.
Yep.
Right? So AI in education, I mean, just think about the greatest tutor and teacher that every kid on the planet can have access to, because everybody will have a device.
Yeah.
Everyone, by 2030, all 8 billion people will be connected on the planet.
So let's pull into that, because
there was a lot there, yeah.
Well, no, but the education part is important, because it does lead us into business, because there is there's a theory here, as the higher education the populace is, the better it is for democracy, the better it is for society, the better it is for business.
For sure.
So certainly there's a line there. There's a thread there that directly connects the impact of AI on business, because of the impact AI has on education.
Yes.
So that's one thread. But what is the other impact that it has on business?
Yeah, I mean, I think just on business, like business in AV, or just business?
Just business in general.
Yeah, I think when you get down to businesses in general. So let's take that question from a few point of views. First of all, every individual has the ability to literally be so much more productive. Okay, because you have the best teacher, the best tutor, the best scientist, the best researcher, intelligence available on tap. So individuals will become more productive. And I'll give you an example. I can't give you the specific example for me because it's a little embarrassing.
Okay.
But there's a responsibility I have, and because all of us are good at different things, right? Some of us are good at writing, some are good at being creative, some are good at Excel sheets and analytics and science and coding and all this stuff, right? But we all have weaknesses, right? 100%. So there's an activity, a responsibility I have, and I can't tell you because it's embarrassing, but I don't like it. I don't like it, right? Yeah. It's necessary, but I don't like it.
It's expense reports, isn't it?
No, it's not.
Because that's mine. Go ahead.
For you, it might be expense
report. Oh my God.
Right?
It's,
yeah. So I don't like it. And I'm not exaggerating here. I've become 7/8 more productive. And I do 7/8 because I'm thinking in 15-minute increments. Okay. So an activity that took me 2 hours in class is now taking me 15 minutes.
Holy cow.
Now, and it gives me a better end product, and it's much more rewarding. I feel like I can actually contribute what I need to contribute in those 15 minutes as opposed to the other hour and 45 that I didn't like. Okay? So, and again, it's one example, right? I wish, if my entire set of responsibilities was at this 87.5% increase, that I would be playing guitar right now, right? But so in this one example, 87.5%, 0.5, whatever.
The fact that you did that math in your head
7/8
is way beyond me. But go ahead.
Who knows if it's a 0.5, right? But
I can't correct you, but
7/8, right? Whatever. But that's my point. It's not only is that I'm that much more productive, it's a better end product. I don't despise the activity anymore, and it's just better, right? And so let me give you one more example. Okay, and it actually has to do back with like the AI moment. Okay. Like I think all of us are going to have an AI moment where it just hits us like a freight train. Mm-hmm. So I'll give you my AI moment. So ChatGPT got released last November, and within a week and 10 days, I was already seeing it on the podcast I was listening to. So I started playing it right away. First time many of us play right away, we're usually like, wow, this is amazing. So then I got so curious about what's actually underlying the science and the math behind the AI. So, I did everything I normally do to learn, right? So that's Google searches, white papers, YouTube videos, etc. And I probably spent a week doing that and learned at the pace that I normally learn at. And then I said, why don't I just sit down for an hour with ChatGPT to have it teach me about AI?
Okay.
It was Mind blowing. It was the moment that hit me. We're like, oh my goodness, because it was the best teacher and tutor you could possibly get. I could ask it specific questions given even my experiences, right? So I did a PhD in electrical engineering at UCLA in the areas of control systems and digital signal processing. So I was asking it questions about AI from the science and the math that I was very familiar with. And it was speaking to me in the science and the math that I was already familiar with. And that opened, so in the 1 hour, right, I learned as much as probably the 10 hours that I had spent the week before in Google links and YouTube videos and white papers, right? So that's a 10x improvement in productivity, right? But it was, besides the 10x improvement, the experience was amazing. The experience was amazing. So that was the AI moment for me when I just then went deeper and deeper and deeper into it. So I didn't even forgot what your question was. What was your question? Because I went off.
We were talking about business.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me continue if I can. So I think businesses are made of individuals, right? Our business is only good as the output of the individuals, right? The people. So that's why I went down the people route. I think all individuals with a curiosity to learn can get much more productive and have much more rewarding jobs, right? Their roles. So that sums into the business, and the business should have a better outcome just because the individuals are more productive. If you go specifically on the business, every business is going to have these models. I mean, Microsoft just had their event. It's all around the Copilot. It's all around everything, the AI assistant. So, like, for example, we have an Oracle CRM. We have a Salesforce. Oracle ERP, a Salesforce CRM, Microsoft Productivity Suites. So all of these technology stacks in businesses, generally speaking, right now they are connected, but it's cumbersome, right? To CRM to your ERP, there's a lot of coding, there's a lot of work that the IT department has to do, and it's not always a great outcome, and it's not always a great experience. But all of these technology stacks will be built, a lot of them have their own large language model above their technology stack that has access to all of that data, can make sense of the data, and can respond to you and I in a conversational manner. Remember, going from any mode to any mode, right? We can go from speech to charts, right? Anything, right? And so for businesses, then businesses will build their own large language model, and some folks have tried that already. Like Bloomberg is the example, but the technology is accelerating so quickly that businesses will then have their own large language models, and it won't even be that much effort to sort of build large language models to connect all these, and certainly companies like Microsoft and Google and others will supply for you. But then. So now your business is connected. All of your technology stack is connected through pretty amazing intelligence, and so the experience of using all of your businesses, all of your business data, will really increase. And then if a business has a lot of software developers, that's a great tool for software development. If a business has a large customer operations, customer support, customer service organization, it's an amazing tool, not only for productivity, but again, I always reinforce not only productivity, but a better experience.
And what I was going to say is OpenAI just had their first dev day.
Yes.
And
Unbelievable.
I'm going to simplify this way, but they released a mechanism for people to develop their own, not their own large language models, but their own chat GPTs.
Their own GPTs.
That are hyper-focused on customer service, on public relations, on marketing, whatever it is. And so that is one area where folks can kind of personalize it to their business or personalize it to their department.
Yes.
Right.
So I've built my own Joe GPT.
Oh, good Lord.
And here's the amazing thing, right? And this
is that how you got down to 15 minutes?
No. Yes, I program ChatGPT on a specific task.
Okay.
Get me down to 15 minutes. All right. So there's a code I write. It's a /P, and as soon as I do /P, it's basically now prompting me for everything I need.
Okay.
I do all that.
Wow.
And okay, so I do all that, and it sort of gives me everything, and that's 5 minutes. Then I put the human in the loop for 10, right, to get it to where I want it to go,
Yeah.
right? And so I don't, people debate about, anyways, let's not go down that way, right? But I think the human in the loop on AI systems is an important part.
Absolutely.
So, what were we saying?
ChatGPT's dev day.
ADD, right?
Yeah, that's all right. So let me ask you a question.
No. Can I answer that one?
Yeah.
Okay. The
OpenAI's dev day.
It was an amazing event. So it was clear earlier in the year. We get to 3.5 last November. Early in the year, OpenAI announces basically going down a platform and ecosystem strategy.
They announced apps for it. The whole
APIs, a community. So the OpenAI event just this past week,
Yeah,
right?
I think
it was like Monday. So everyone's now building your own GPTs because technically the way that works is once a GPT is built, and I think GPT-4 took $10 billion of compute time to build, right? So this is basically all GPT-4, all the data in up to I think March of this year, all the data of the internet, all Wikipedia, all the blogs, all the posts, right? So you train the model, and it takes tens of billions of dollars to do it, right? Tens of thousands of GPUs, CPUs for months and months and months. But once that model is trained, you literally have a model of parameters, of literally numbers. And then the reason now you can train your own GPT based on their model is because what we call the foundation model is done.
Yeah.
And now you're just fine tuning the model for whatever your need is. And OpenAI is not only an amazing AI company with the science, but they're an amazing user interface company. Right? I mean, that's the user interface of ChatGPT is really what ignited this. So I saw that announcement. I sort of watched that whole event. Within 24 hours, Tim, when I went on Twitter or X the next day, within 24 hours, people were posting the most amazing GPTs. So I'll give you one because it's someone did a sportscaster GPT. So the video, I think it was Messi, and he's playing soccer, and it was like, I knew it was like, oh, Messi goes through two defenders. Oh my goodness, look at Messi, blah blah blah, and he goes through the last defender. He shoots, he scores, right? So now take this in two ways. Okay, sportscaster GP, that's nice and funny and amazing, but think of what the technology just did. It watched a video in real time. It knew who Messi was. It knew that he was going through defenders. It did all that. It scored, and then it brings in the human emotion of what happens after Messi scores. Yeah. If you think about the technology that is required to do all that, unbelievable.
It is.
Unbelievable.
This is probably a dangerous question, but I'm still going to ask it.
Perfect.
What's your favorite part of AI?
My favorite part, and I think I've alluded to it, is I believe it will continue to improve quality of life in humanity and democratize healthcare and education, and hopefully energy and sound, for all, right? Because again, it doesn't escape me. I live in a very privileged, United States of America. We have access to all of these things, but most of the planet does not. I would say a lot of the planet does not. Yeah. So that's the most exciting thing for me to see. All right. And so that's a cool
That's
thing.
A good one.
Yeah.
We've laid a really good foundation. We are going to take turn to AV because that's what both of us do. That's what both of us do for a living.
Because we have jobs.
We do.
We do have jobs.
You have apparently gotten yours down to 15 minutes, which I think is fantastic.
That was only one task. That was only one task.
How will AI change AV?
And that was really the sort of like the main topic of the talk that I gave at InfoComm.
Again, because this is what we do for a living.
This is what we do for a living. And so, to me, if you look at some of the things, so this was the third piece, and sort of just
Well, you did one on the Infinity Stones for crying
I
out
did one
loud.
on
So.
Infinite Stones in 2019,
Yeah.
and it started in 2016 with Winter is Coming,
Yep.
and that was more of an AV-IT convergence, and main messages was it's not about the product, it's about the platform, it's not only about hardware, it's about software. The Infinity Stones with Avengers got into the new economics of AV, talent, software, and a bunch of other areas. But actually, and then so in the if I could in the Avengers Infinity Stones in 2019, I remember, and I'll do all this for fun.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So I was in Dubrovnik in 2016. That's Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones was a big deal, right? It was the moment, right?
Yeah.
So it was something around Winter is Coming.
And we still say winter is coming.
Great.
Because it is.
Okay. Oh, and that's what I'm going to be like. Oh my gosh, we got to move beyond that. So, and then in 2019, QSC did the world premiere of the Avengers,
Yep.
and that's where let's do something around the Avengers. But even in 2019, because it was the Avengers analogy, I had a spaceship flying through space, and I said all these asteroids are going to come at us. Okay, and these asteroids were called big data. They were called machine learning. They were called deep learning. They were called neural networks. They were called artificial intelligence. Those were the asteroids that were going to come at us. Well, Tim, I'm here to tell you the asteroids are here.
Yes, indeed.
Okay? The asteroids are here. And so with the current talk, it's titled "Everything Has Changed," because I do believe everything has changed. One of the main messages there is AV will move to becoming a technology company, right? I saw these trends even Winter is Coming had that sort of insight that AV was always behind the IT industry, but we were always catching up. And so how I think it impacts AV is the technology is sort of everywhere. We need to move our AV industry to be a technology industry. So I've been at QSC for 20 years next year.
Okay.
So when I joined in 2004, the industry was already talking about AV-IT convergence.
100%.
100%. And so my point is we as an industry need to move beyond the conversation of AV-IT convergence into AV technology convergence. And I'm picking my definitions.
Yeah.
So if I could define, I'm picking my definitions. By IT, right, I mean networks, switches, right? Network switches, somewhat of a hardware, network switches infrastructure, somewhat of a hardware orientation.
Okay.
And by technology, I mean cloud data AI, much more of a software orientation, right? So I'm just choosing my definition so to sort of make clear my point. And by IT, I mean a mindset that's mostly around resiliency, redundancy, safety, security, a utility mindset, which is absolutely needed in all of our AV systems. But by technology, I mean a mindset that's more centered around insights, outcomes, connection, much more of an experience orientation, right? And so I believe the AV industry, because of the exponential pace of technologies today, the AV industry will be moving rapidly beyond the IT conversation to a technology conversation. And I think that's where it's going to present a ton of challenges in our industry, but also a ton of opportunities in our industry.
Absolutely. Okay, so as we kind of get more into the business of AV,
sure,
and the impact that AI is going to have, let's get beyond the convergence chatter, because you're right. Since 2004, and I think it was even 2000, Infocom had a big, ginormous banner that said convergence on it. Right?
Yeah, because it was there when I joined.
Yeah. So specifically, what challenges or what opportunities do you see in AV for AI?
So, I think let me rephrase. Given the world today, right? And usually when I try to answer these questions, I always start with what's the big picture of what's happening in the world today, right? And you get into financial systems are very unstable. That's a wealth gap that separates people. You get into a political divide, right? You get into populism on the left and the right that separates people. You get into now we have wars in two regions of the world. that separates people, right? So the pandemic, right, separate people. So you get into all that and you say the world, that's the ironic thing, the world is more and more connected, but the world is more and more disconnected. Okay, so hold that thought. If you think about what AV is, we are literally managing, amplifying, controlling the two senses that are most important for connection, sight and sound.
Okay.
And so even with COVID, as horrible that was for the industry, I thought it was good. We had 5 years of video adoption in like 5 months.
Yep.
Right, and now we're extremely relevant to enterprises because every enterprise has someone on the far end, even those who are bringing people back to work. So we have a real role in connecting the workforce and engaged workforce, which means better business productivity. We have a real role in connecting human beings. So an AI specifically can really amplify our ability to connect human beings, whether it's through, as I mentioned, employee engagement across a business enterprise, or whether it's through performer to audience and audience to audience in the live events and higher education, cross-border learning. You can go on in any vertical and sort of run the thought experiment of how a well-architectured AV system could not only lead to better outcomes and insight, but connect human beings. And so I think that is the opportunity for us. And in the everything has changed talk, I kind of paraphrase that as it's our turn to step up to center stage.
Okay.
Right? I mean, if you think about it, we're always setting the stage for someone else, like literally. Right?
Yeah, quite frankly, yeah.
Right, quite frankly, right? But the world is in desperate need of what we can provide. And so that's an exciting, AI is exciting in many fields. And, obviously I've cited healthcare and education when you're asking about humanity. But in terms of, it's super exciting in AV because we are literally controlling the senses. Think about this. We have eyes and ears everywhere. Right, yeah. And that's an immense amount of data that we can bring in, that we can ingest, that we can use AI, machine learning algorithms to for whatever outcome that we really want to engineer and develop, and that is because of that, and then the world needing more connection, and we're amplifying sight and sound. We have an amazing opportunity not only to connect human beings, which is amazing in itself, but there's a lot of monetary value, right? To help an enterprise build an engaged workforce, to help higher education really do amazing distant learning, active learning across borders, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I want to get some definition here because I have said for years I am a failed programmer.
Okay.
Right, and I am. I think the control is one of the most fascinating parts of the industry. I think it's really cool that you can push a button and 1,000 things can happen.
Yes.
I just can't make it happen, and I have tried.
Yeah.
I've tried several.
You've tried programming.
I have tried programming,
okay.
and it's just not happening for me. My brain doesn't work that way. I still think it's cool.
Yes.
But when you look at AI, and there's one of the things that folks are looking at it going, oh, it can do this. Well, it can commission a system audio-wise, right? It can put a microphone in, it can shoot out a tone, come back and go, okay, well, these are the adjustments you need to make on the EQ.
Yeah.
As opposed to pushing a button and having things happen. Talk for a second about the differentiator between AI and what should honestly be labeled automation.
Right. Okay. Yeah, so I think that's a little bit about, again, deterministic versus intelligence, right? Going back to that, there are plenty of things that we could do on a deterministic level today, and that, our industry's been working on it ever since for decades and decades, right?
40, 50, 60 years.
Right, that's just great information that comes from data that's available in our equipment, really solid programming, and we built some amazing products and platforms in the industry, okay? So there's still a lot of applications where we fall short there, and that's no one's fault except our own. Right, our inability, and it's not our inability, but just some of these things just take time, and we're always just working on new applications, and the applications get more complicated and as well as exciting. So that's automation, right? So AI is now taking all that data and learning. That's probably the easiest way to differentiate between automation and learning.
That's fair, yeah.
So if automation has seen things 10, 20, 50, 8,000 times and it's automating to this way, AI will just sort of learn that and perhaps do that before even automation happens.
Okay.
Right? And so right now, equipment may hit a failure point and there's maybe automation to power down or reboot. That's automation.
Yeah.
AI, all of this equipment should be connected together. The data should be ingested in the cloud. There should be AI algorithms that's looking at AI should be able to tell you that, hey, that equipment, because it has all of this data, I'm just making things up here, right? There's an 80% chance that might fail over the next 6 weeks.
Yeah.
That would be amazing information.
Oh my gosh,
that's AI, right? So that's not automating after it failed, but it's like, okay, it sends to you, the end user, the integrator, or anyone sort of managing that system. You might want to order, you might want to go look at it, or you might want to order a replacement, right? So that's where the intelligence will come in. I went down one route.
No, that's a great, it's a great definition. Yeah. Before we get out of here, I want to hone in on a couple areas. I want you to talk for a second to your customer's customer, right? To the IT director at a Fortune 500. How will AI impact their job on a daily basis? Or not even a daily basis, but how will it impact them supporting and managing and maintaining the systems, their AV systems in their corporate headquarters?
Yeah, I mean, can I answer that? Like almost every question you ask me, I go right here, and then hopefully I get
You'll get there.
Hopefully, I think. So let's talk about the end user. Let's talk about the IT manager who's managing the AV system, right? I think the first thing is that person has an incredible opportunity to really elevate the experience of all employees across the entire enterprise through AV technologies, right? So we got to, moving beyond, let's get the conferencing system working, right? In terms of when AI will make its way in and sort of get, it's moving so quickly, but more and more potential, right? Yeah. So, the conferencing experience should become extremely natural, extremely real-time, extremely humanistic, and there's a lot of Microsoft and others are working on, they're all in on Microsoft, on AI, right? So the IT manager, first and foremost, needs to think about, I have incredible technologies coming down the pipeline where I have that type of impact across the enterprise. And then getting down to tactically speaking, right? I think you're gonna, it means that person should be all current with all the new technologies that are coming out. If they're still struggling, using our analogy of AV IT versus AV technology, if they're still struggling with some of the basics of networks and infrastructure and sort of keeping that uptime, and if that is 100% of their role, they've totally missed the opportunity. So somehow that IT manager on a practical basis needs to have that capability, which is absolutely important, but needs to hire the capability or create the bandwidth to really embrace these new technologies. And whether they're sort of current on all the Microsoft Copilots, or ChatGPT Enterprise, or Microsoft, OpenAI, the OpenAI GPT through the Microsoft Azure Cloud, Salesforce, LLM, Oracle. They need to think differently because the entire software paradigm has changed, right? And if you're IT, that's a big deal for you.
That's a huge deal.
Yeah.
Take that same thought, and it's a little bit different because of the environment. Talk now to the higher education technology manager, the higher education, AV technician, the folks at HETMA, right? How is this going to impact not only their meeting spaces, but specifically here, classrooms?
Right.
Right.
Right. Well, I think it opens up. let me start. It certainly opens up, if there's any education that they're doing online or any education on the far side, it opens up a whole new world of possibilities to make that far end amazing, right? So you have computer vision in the lecture halls. You probably have very, active whiteboards or whiteboards that are intelligent, and there's a lot of interaction between the students in terms of active learning in person as well as active learning for students on the far side. Yeah. So immediately with the hybrid working environment, you could create an amazing learning experience. So I think that's probably one of the more immediate things that's available, that's very line of sight, right, in higher education. And then, in terms of what universities, or not even higher education, or any school will be able to do this, right? The ability to reach more students, the ability to have your greatest teacher be the teacher of a subject matter. I mean, think about it. Imagine if every, we'll stick to higher education, all right? And I'm sort of going off a tangent here. But so when I went to UCLA, it was a total, throw of the die, where are you going to have a good teacher or not? Yeah. Right? Because a lot of these professors are great at researchers, but they're not great at teaching. And students go in and they're taking their first, electrical engineering class, and they don't understand anything. But imagine if every student can actually learn a subject matter from the greatest teacher in that subject matter. Right? AI can do that. Technology can do that now. So this is where I always get into what's possible and what's here. Yeah. Higher education organizations are going to figure out if they want to move down that route, right? And so
I don't think they're going to figure it out. I think they're going to be forced into it. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I don't think, because you take it back a step. Both of my kids are in high school. Yeah. When ChatGPT 3 came out, it was everybody's like freaking out, right? And I know colleges and universities were freaking out, like kids are going to cheat. They're going to be forced into this. This is not right. And I'm not saying today or tomorrow, but eventually they will be forced.
But this is another area of education again, right? Because I have a junior in high school. Okay, I have a junior in high school. He has. I'm not going to mention his class because maybe it'll get to a teacher or something like that, right? But he has a class with a teacher that's kind of horrible. And so he's learning that subject matter the way most creative kids will do, and they'll just go on YouTube and find the great teacher there, right? But imagine, you don't have to go to YouTube. Imagine you could just learn from the greatest teacher in that subject matter, and you have the greatest tutor next to you. That is it accelerates learning. Who knows, right? I mean, how much, right? 87.5%.
87.5%. Good Lord. As we wrap up here, I want to give you an overarching question, which I know is kind of dangerous for you.
These are great.
Talk again. I am a failed programmer, right? So no
worries.
Understand who you're talking to. Talk to somebody that reads all these things, listens to you, and understands ChatGPT understands AI from a very elementary level. Yes. How do we start
going down this route?
How do we? So if I think that I'm convinced, Joe, yes. you have evangelized me to the point where I am all in. What's my first step?
So I think that was your first step.
Okay.
I actually think that was your first step, because now you're curious. And I think that actually is the first step. Okay. Right? And I can tell you all the bad steps, right? Don't think it's a fad. That's a bad step.
That's a huge bad step.
Don't try to fight it. You're not going to win that battle. Mm-mm. Right? I mean, and we have thousands of years of history of people fighting technology. They never win. Okay. But you just took on a very proactive and positive first step, which is now I'm curious. So I would say spend an hour with GPT, for example, and just ask it crazy things, right? And at this point, because I was telling you about multimodal, it's not just text. When a year ago it was just text, but when I looked at the transformer architecture, I'm like, it's not just text. All modes are. And right now, you can upload images to GPT. You can upload video files, audio files, etc. Right? So I'll give you like an example. My son's at UCLA. He actually just texted me a photo of like this meal he had in the dorm, and then and the thing says this is 2,000 calories. That doesn't look right. And I looked at it and like that does not look like 2,000 calories. That's maybe 1,000 max.
Yeah.
So I took the photo, I put it into GPT, and I said, how many calories are in this meal? And then GPT says, well, you know, blah, 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 it does all this disclaimer stuff, but it looks like you have some pasta, blah, 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 it looks like you have X ounces of a sauce, blah, blah, and it said that's probably around 800 calories, right? And so that was, again, a learning moment for my son, because I just screenshotted that and I sent it back to him, and he's like, bruh, right? So get curious, play with the technology.
Yeah.
You know, anyone can just sit down and play with the technology. And then, you know, for me, I was always just following folks who are really into it, whether I'm following them on YouTube or with a podcast or following them on X.
Yeah.
You just got to find the thought leaders and whatever, and you got to find your way to learn that resonates with you.
Yeah.
Right? So I could tell you, here are the 10 people I follow on X, but it could be a totally different 10 people
100%.
for you. Yeah, so I would say get curious, just learn. And then, you know, if you go beyond like what enterprises should do if they're trying to get off zero, right? Just how do I start, right? So if we're talking about the individual, to me, because once you learn, you'll go down a path. You'll go down a natural path. How enterprises should start, you know, when someone asks me that, I would just say like find the half dozen folks in your company that are so enamored by this. Give them some space to meet, facilitate, you know, learn from each other, give them some space in the organization to spread the education and show what's possible in the organization. And I think then the snowball starts for companies. Because they'll go down and they'll be like, oh my gosh, did you know that this technology can do this? And all of a sudden that becomes extremely meaningful for that particular company. Yeah. But it all starts with an individual champion, like individually learn, be curious, play. And then at the enterprise, find half a dozen people, find 10 people who are so into it and let them learn, be curious, play, and spread that knowledge across the organization.
All right, that's a good place to start. Joe Pham, thank you so much, sir.
Tim, it was so great.
Absolutely.
That was fun.
Thank you. How do people connect with QSC?
QSC.com, and there's also QSys.com,
okay.
And so that will be the best way. And I'm sure that would be the best way.
All right. Very good.
Or, you know, I mean, we have a marketing team, and I'm sure they're out there.
I'll send people their email if they want to know.
That'd be great.
So, Joe Pham for QSys. For us, for AVNation, go by our website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Find videos like this and a whole lot more, all that and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.